What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, and I co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care, and being part of that team last year, I was able to reach out directly and indirectly to 100,000 men, over 100,000 men around the world. So as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live today on September 18th, 2022, and it's Black Canada Talking Time. So if you don't know what Black Canada Talking is, it's a live online event that provides Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them, and also like to showcase Black Canadians are doing important, relevant, and game-changing things. So we're going to have some new friends on today, and I know that some people may be or know of the whole area of supervised access. So today we have two new friends from a wonderful organization called Supervision Services, and they facilitate a safe environment for children and families who require supervised access visits. So we're going to bring our two friends up on the screen because they're ready. They're ready to make it happen. Tanisha Archer and Derek Woodruff, how you doing?
Hi.
Hey, we're doing really great. Thanks for inviting us.
Yes.
Well, hey, this is an important subject that unfortunately, some of us either directly or indirectly are exposed to. So it's nice to get both of you on. And I'm glad because I did not know anything about your organization until about 2 weeks ago. And thank you to Kezia, who made me aware of this to make it all happen. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to a educational and enlightening and informative conversation from both of you. So I got the right people at the right time at the right place. So I'm confident. I know you're going to do great.
Well, we're excited. We're excited to share about the work that we're doing, and just having this conversation. And if there's any questions that need to be asked, and just to have a good conversation about this topic, because you're right, it is important and it does impact our community and most communities, if not certainly all communities. So.
Absolutely. So I always like to say ladies first.
Okay.
I'd like to get some background on our wonderful ladies on the screen today. So could you share a little bit about your background with our family?
My name is Techenia Archer. I'm a registered early childhood educator. I'm the service support coordinator with Renew Supervision Services. And my role is I do parenting courses. So how I kind of got started into it is I worked in childcare, was working with lots of different families in Toronto. And then I ended up becoming a childcare supervisor. So I got to be able to do more one-on-one with a lot of families and help with that transition with children moving through the years. And then I, found this amazing organization, and Derek and Joanne brought me on. And then we talked a bit and started to make a parenting course that kind of tailored to meet the needs of the clients that we have to support their children.
So Techenia, why did you go into this madhouse world? What got you into it?
I think for a long time, I've always wanted to do something with children. And through Renew, I actually learned that I really like to support the parents, because if the parents are not working on themselves, you can't be the best parent for your kids. And I found that I was able to provide them with different strategies and stuff to support their children through the transition, especially through supervised access. The child is in the middle. And sometimes the child does get forgotten a lot. And the parents are kind of putting their feelings before the children sometimes. So kind of helping them navigate that and making sure, you are supporting your child through that transition as their life is kind of changing a bit. But I've always had a passion with working with families. And even though your structure might be reshuffled, it doesn't mean it can't be successful in its own way. Yeah.
Like that take. I can so much relate. I spent some years working as a program coordinator at Canada's only father-focused family center. So I've seen the good and the not so good. And I can understand a lot sometimes the child being left out of the picture and the egos of both parties are overshadowing the the benefit or the growth of the child.
Right. Yeah. Like my parents, not to get too personal, but I am kind of the children that we have in our program because my parents did separate when I was 6. So I kind of lived it a bit. And through my own experience, I realized, there is a need for an organization to kind of support families with this. Like there's not much out there. You can do as much counseling and stuff, but with the stuff that we do, it's changed a lot of lives for the children and really have helped and support them and their families tremendously.
Well, and also I like how you shared that you have some lived testimony on this. So
Mhm.
you've experienced it. So that adds to the credibility that you bring to the organization. Well, let me pass it over to Derek. Can you give a little background about yourself, sir?
I definitely will, but I think Tashina is also being a little modest because not only is she responsible for doing our parenting programs, or at least assisting with our parenting programs, but as you could imagine, during these custody access visits, not all of them go well.
Yep.
There's a lot of hiccups that happen along the way. And so Tashina is also in part responsible for kind of problem solving those challenges so that the next week that the visits happen or the following day, that they can run a little more smoothly. Because a big part of Renew isn't just to provide this service wherein, it's great, parents can't see their kids and we have a monitoring person there, but we want them to succeed. So we got to address the underlying reasons for the court orders for supervision in the first place, but also how do we make them successful? How do we help move a family from needing supervision to not needing it? Right. And so Tashina also plays a key role in all of that piece. So that next visit just goes a little bit better, not just for the parents, but also for the children. So, and that's a huge task. It's a huge task. So thanks.
So you're getting props. Take them.
Thank you.
All right.
You do amazing work. And we couldn't do it without you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So Derek, a little bit of background about yourself, please.
Yeah, so I've been doing kind of social service work. I live in Toronto for about 20 years already, and just supporting parents and families in different capacities in that time. And I think Renew really is a culmination of all the work that I've done, along with my business partner, Joyanne Oliver, who's not here today, who's a paralegal, and just bringing all that work together. And I think then what you see is Renew, which kind of, as I alluded to, isn't just about providing this opportunity for parents to be supervised, but more than that, to really address the underlying reasons why these court orders were put in place in the very first place. So hence Tashina talking about parenting programs. We have anger management, and then we've got wonderful online present child and family therapists that deal with kind of the emotional and issues, or if there's mental health issues or concerns. We also talk about what's called reunification therapy. That is when a child, for whatever reason, a variety of reasons, just really doesn't want, or is there's some parent-child contact problems between the child and the parent. And our therapists are there to kind of help mediate and bring these families together. And so I think Renew is a culmination of my experience, Joyanne's experience, and our real desire to just see parents and families succeed. As is yours, doing the dad's program for all these years. There's something in us that drives us that we need you to be successful. It's the idea we almost hopefully put ourselves out of business, right? The more families that can transition from needing us to not needing us is a huge win for us. When we get those emails and saying, hey, Tashina or Miss Oliver or whoever that they're communicating with, we no longer need your services. The judge has awarded me unsupervised access. We celebrate. Like, it is a wonderful moment for us. So that's kind of where we are.
Excellent. So Derek, take us back to how did the organization start? What can you? I love when I see success. I like to hear the process on how it got started.
Yeah. So as mentioned, we've been kind of doing kind of social service work, and Joyanne and myself had always been I know her from all the way from high school. So we've known each other for many, many, many years. And so we're working with started another business before this, actually, called Help Me Settle, which was supporting students who were living abroad that were going to be coming to Canada to start their studies here. And then COVID basically hit and completely shut that down altogether. And so we were just really looking for something else that was community focused, that kind of allowed us to kind of support our community and our families. And so this is kind of what transitioned. So Renew kind of came about just prior to the pandemic, well, just really going into the pandemic, at the very beginning of it. And unfortunately, it began to really take off because, as you can imagine, as you know, I'm sure, once families really got locked in together during that time, unfortunately, high conflict relationships began to surge. Domestic violence began to surge, and it became a real big problem. And so unfortunately, there began to immediately become a growing need for supervised access services in Toronto and abroad. And so really quickly, although we were very new to the scene, we immediately started getting referrals from lawyers, from judges, people finding us online, and it began to spread really quickly. And so we started in Toronto, and then very quickly we ended up adding another office in Ottawa. And then we ended up opening up other opportunities from Hamilton to Kitchener-Waterloo to Kingston, all the way into Durham to Curtis. Like, it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And unfortunately, it's out of this unfortunate need for supervised access visits.
Derek, you missed a place.
Where did I miss? Toronto? Scarborough?
Saskatchewan.
And we've expanded recently all the way into Saskatchewan. And so it's really taking off. We have even right now as we're talking, there are many access visits that are happening kind of right now, all across Ontario through Renew.
Yeah. I think what the great thing is also with Renew is we operate 365 days a year. And there really isn't a time restraint where a visit cannot happen or where we can't provide a family with service. Like, we're very flexible, and we will try everything in our best to, if we have to hire a supervisor who speaks a certain language, like we have supervisors who speak multiple languages just to accommodate those families, to ensure that they are able to see their children and have that comfortable visit with their family.
And we go to you. We go to you. So don't think of this as an access center where you just come to us here in Ottawa or you come to us in Toronto. Our staff go to wherever you are. We really want to make this as natural for you as possible. So if you want to go to the movie theaters, our staff are going to the movie theaters. If you want to go to the swimming pool in the summertime, we're going to the swimming pool. Wherever you want this to be, overnight camping and even overnight visits right now as well. If that's where you are in your journey with your child, then we want to create as natural experience for you as possible.
Yeah. We're trying to mimic what it would feel like to be unsupervised, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So our supervisors, they're not wearing a t-shirt or a badge or anything like that. We try to make it feel as authentic as possible. And we don't want to impede, obviously, and we don't want to make the children feel kind of weird, because it is a natural situation to be in and have another person there. But yeah, there's no limits really as to what the supervisors do and where they go.
We are talking to Tashina and Derek from Renew Supervision Services. People, ask your questions. We got someone from LinkedIn saying, great topic here. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So many questions I want to ask, or conversation pieces I want to bring up, because I have some experience with this. So I'll just go in and we'll go wherever we can. The people who are doing the supervised access, what sort of training do they have?
Well, they are, they all come from a community type of background. They all have family and children experience. So we have social workers, we have child and youth workers. We have people who have a law background as well too, either paralegals or lawyers, ECEs, we have teachers. So we kind of look for individuals who have some sort of that experience. We have a CAS workers as well too. So we want people who have that experience with working with children and families, and also having that ability to manage high conflict situations, because sometimes emotions do come up during visits with both co-parents. So we need to ensure that we have supervisors who have that knowledge and ability to kind of manage that and de-escalate. And they go through quite an extensive training as well when they come on board, like all through our policies, procedures. We do scenarios, because anything can happen, and we want to make sure that they have as much information as possible to support them and to ensure that it's a positive experience for everyone who's involved.
Derek, when this journey first started, how did you get the message out?
That's a really great question. I know we started, I'm not a big social media guy, but certainly opened up like an Instagram and Facebook account and just started putting up little posts, just not so much even advertising our services, but just thinking about kind of tips and strategies for parents in high conflict relationships who have separated, and putting kind of, ads out there. We also started connecting with some lawyers. As mentioned, my partner, Joanne Oliver, is a paralegal. So she started networking with her contacts. And then again, really quickly, it just really started to spread. Like any company, at the very beginning, we did hit some, kind of bumps along the way as we tried to really figure this out to the best of our abilities. And thankfully, we were able to pick it up. We're still learning along the way. We do a lot of professional development, both for us in management as owners, as well as for our staff as well.
Actually, from both of your lenses, what have been the impacts during and post? Well, we're not probably full of pandemic, but after the heavy point of pandemic, what are some of the things that you've seen that probably many of us don't know because we're just so focused in our lives? What are some of the impacts, either good or not good, that you've seen because of the pandemic and the impact on families?
Derek, do you want to go? Start?
Sure. Yeah. So there's this concept called toxic stress, where we all go through stressful moments in our lives. We all do, right? Public speaking for me, I don't love public speaking for myself, and I know a lot of people find it very stressful times. But we know that it comes and we know that it goes, and there's an ebb and flow of stress in our life with work, etc. But and you go through that fight and flight kind of typical kind of scenario. But with toxic stress, it's this idea where the chronic stress from either a domestic violence or high conflict relationships in the home, it doesn't shut off. That it's just constantly pulsating for weeks, for months. And as we know as adults, stress, even for a short amount of time, it like raises our blood pressure, our sugar level, our insulin can't regulate itself. But with toxic stress, it's just this ongoing problem, an ongoing challenge. And one of the challenges that we see here in these families during COVID in particular is that when you have a high conflict relationship before the pandemic, my wife and I don't get along, we go to work and it's fine, we get a break. And then we can come back home and we bicker or argue, whatever it is. But with the pandemic, it's like we are trapped inside this home. We are really locked in together. And that stress stays with you throughout the entire day, and it begins to intensify. And one of the challenges is not just that the parents begin to really struggle with it, but then the impact on the children that it begins to have. And so that's what we talk about with toxic stress, is these children have no outlet. They're constantly exposed for weeks and months. And we know that it affects them academically. We know it affects them socially. And we know that there's significant impairments long-term on their overall health when they're exposed to this. One other way of looking at it is this way too. When a kid that isn't exposed to chronic stress in their life, they go to school almost like sponges. Minds are blank. They had a good night's sleep. They've had a good breakfast, as their meal, and they're ready to absorb information. Give me the slope formula. Y equals mx plus b. I've got this. Pythagoras, we've got this. But when you are going to school and all night long you've heard mom and dad not just yelling, but throwing, hitting, maybe the police are coming there. You don't have a really great meal because mom is exhausted, dad is exhausted. And now you're going to school. You're not even thinking, you can't process this information, right? It's just, and it lives with you and it stays with you and it's hard to go away. And so what we see a lot of families that are just really hurting. I don't want to quite use the word broken, but certainly really hurting and struggling. How do I get rid of this constant stress? How do I find peace? How do I exhale? How do I breathe? And for the children too, how do we breathe? How do we get some type of peace or closure in all of this? And so I think that this is a significant challenge that we've seen during the pandemic. Certainly we know that domestic violences have been on the increase during this time. And
It's interesting. I just want to interrupt you there. I know probably it does, but you're not hearing this in the media,
No.
right?
Yeah.
So it's what my concern is what we're not hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's very troubling. I think I do remember vaguely when we were all locked down, there was a mention of it, but then eventually it just stopped. But the thing is, it still hasn't stopped, and it's not going to, unfortunately. And I can say, like, post pandemic, even though we're still in a pandemic, there's been an increase of a lot of behaviors in children, even the children that are in our organization. The level of behavior and anger that comes out. And now that there's the ability to remove that parent from the house, so that stressor, we're opening back up a jar that was closed because now they're meeting that person all over again. And let's say now, the children are back in school, the parent has got them into a schedule, but now they're meeting this person all over again. And there's that reminder. So it's almost like a post-traumatic stress that's happening as well too. And just trying to figure out how can we support that child and give them the necessary skills for them to work through that emotion or articulate their emotions when they see that person who reminded them of all that trauma that they went through when they were all under that roof together. But there's definitely been an increase with those behaviors coming out in children, not only at home, but definitely in school and in childcare. They just don't know what to do with it. And I think it's important to understand, like, developmentally, it's most, they would say the brain doesn't stop developing till you're about 24, 25 years old. And that frontal cortex of that inhibitory control is still under construction 16, 17, 18. So when you're asking a 6-year-old to meet their mom that has been gone for 2 years and to accept being loved and cuddled, and on top of now I'm starting grade 1, that's a big ask from a
Sure.
child, right?
Absolutely.
And you're having 3 visits at a time. You have to see this woman and you don't have that relationship. So they are going to explode.
Wow.
And if I could even carry that on, because you're right, it's not in the media, I don't think. I think generally what's in the media is this idea around be mindful about your mental health, do mindfulness, but it's not this one specific topic about the impact of that COVID had on parents that were already having challenges within their relationship. And I think what also made the COVID really strenuous for the families is that with the lockdown, it made it difficult for parents to actually see their child in real life. So then what happened, these visits went virtual. So then imagine what you have is a parent that is now out of the home, are not able to spend that time with the child, can only see that child virtually, and the child is under 5, under 4, under 3, maybe they're only 6 months of age. Right? How do you really do that bonding that we know as parents that really happens in those formidable moments in those first years of life when all you can do is see them virtually? It's not just a matter of the child bonding with you, but it's also the parent bonding with the child. So we talk about like tummy time, all like that skin to skin contact that we have with children that really makes a difference for us as parents, for us as fathers. All of that is gone in this time. And so now we come out 2 years of being estranged from your child and now beginning to see your child face to face. A lot has been missed, both in terms of how they feel about you, that bonding, but then also how you've bonded with your child. And the anger then that comes out of there. I missed 2 years. I missed a year. I missed 6 months. I missed 8 months. Those important moments are gone.
Wow. So, but here's my other concern. Outside, like, there are not enough organizations like your own who are doing this. There's a gap.
There is, which is why, again, I think that this is taken off, because it's not so much that I think people can find, you can find a person that can monitor this supervised person that can monitor a visit either through CAS or maybe you can use a family member. But our goal is really to repair this relationship. Like we're not okay with just providing with an access worker. We need to
Yeah.
repair this. We need to restore this. We need to create communities. We need to, especially in our community, we need to rebuild this family unit and structure together. And you're right. I think that there is a lack of resources there. Like even if you were to get to look at like a therapist, either a family therapist or a social worker, there's a lengthy wait list for this. You're talking like 6 months, a year sometimes. If you need a psychological assessment, it could be a year, could be a year and a half, depending on the challenge that you're experiencing. So there's a lengthy wait list for these types of services and stuff. So there's definitely an incredible need for it and lack of resources.
Well, you're reading my alleged mind. I want to get to that in just a second. Someone from LinkedIn is saying, Derek is the truth. We're collaborating with him as a student in a gang exiting program. Keep up the great social work in conference of filling in the gaps. So you have a fan club.
That's unbelievable. I don't know who you are, but
You have a fan club.
I really appreciate that. You really made me smile as soon as, man. I hope that we can connect later on. Please, whoever you are, feel free to reach out to me. I appreciate that.
Well, that's fantastic. And if you, whoever you are, the way you can reach out is through website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So I'm speaking that whoever you are, you're going to reach out to Derek and say, hey, I meant what I said. I was just wanted to look good. I meant what I said.
I appreciate it. I really do. Everyone that I worked with in the past, I mean, they're doing some amazing things on their own, and I love hearing their stories, and I just developed some wonderful relationships that working at that period of my life with individuals that were caught up in, different things in their life. I mean, it really changed me. It really had a meaningful impact on my life. I think it shifted the way I view people, the way I view myself, the way I view my family, the way I view the world, the hope that I have for people. So everyone, you guys really do mean a lot. Thank you.
Much appreciated. How do people find out about you now compared to at the beginning? Because Derek, you said at the beginning you had to reach out to people. What's happening now?
The family court. I think we're like one of the top recommended supervision services right now in family courts.
Yeah.
And the lawyers are just talking. We have people call every day, like just crazy amount of phone calls. And maybe we should start asking, like, how did you hear about it? Some people are Googling us.
That would be a good idea.
No, we do have it there. It is on the form. It is at the bottom. And many people, Techenia is right. They mostly find us through the family court. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling to see that on an actual court order from a judge, they have said this family must go to Renew Supervision Services for this particular reason. Certainly lawyers now are reaching out. Techenia is right. Like we get a number of calls throughout the week for services. So certainly judges, lawyers are our biggest referral space right now. And then people are finding us online.
Wow. Are there other organizations doing what you're doing?
Well, there are others that are doing the supervised access for sure. And I think that there's some others they're trying to address some challenges, but I think Renew we've really focused on that. And I think it's because Joanne and myself have a social work background. Like we are embedded in the community. So our entire lens is, I need you to succeed. So it's what drives us. It's what drives us that we brought Techenia on board as our service support coordinator, because we weren't satisfied with just offering the service. It has to be a service with excellence. We have to succeed. So it is what drives us. And I think that really makes us unique. Certainly what makes us unique, one factor or one thing for sure is that we offer reunification or reintegration therapy. And again,
what does that mean? Because most people go, what did that mean? That's a nice term, but what does that mean? Give me English.
Yeah, so it is a fancy word, reunification therapy or reintegration therapy. Sometimes it's called another term. Here's a bigger one, multifaceted family therapy. But it is a form of family therapy facilitated by a therapist that is driven with the goal of reuniting a child and a parent. So there's a parent-child contact problems. Maybe there was a history of mental health. Maybe there was a period of estrangement. Maybe there was some type of violence. But whatever has happened, the child and the parent aren't communicating well. There's a breakdown there. And in particular, oftentimes, the child wants nothing to do with the parent. It's very difficult to bridge that gap. And reunification or reintegration therapy is to try to figure out how do we bring these two people back together in a way where there's a meaningful relationship. How do we rebuild, or what we call repair, this fractured relationship?
So let me get some clarity here. Does your organization deal with the relation between parents and children and parents between each other? What are the focuses of your organization? Is the rebuilding between the parent and the child, or does it also include the parents with each other?
So it's the whole family unit. So a big part of it, so a part of reunification therapy is there's a co-parenting component. It's how can we work together for the best interest of the child?
Mm-hmm.
And you have different models for this. So if you think of a spectrum or a line, on one end you might have co-parenting, and co-parenting works really well if there's somewhat of an open line or some type of healthy channels of communication between you and a partner. It may not be great, but it's there. And this is why I'm talking about a continuum. So imagine at one end, you actually have great lines of communication. You're separated, but you still work really well as together. On the other end is what's called parallel parenting. Mm-hmm. Imagine, when our children are really small, the two children are together and they're kind of playing, but they're not really interacting with one another. They're kind of doing things separately. In parallel parenting, we have one set of norms at one house and another set of norms at the other house. They're not really interacting with each other, the parents, but they are both parenting the child, just not really together. They're doing it separately. Mm-hmm. And here is the continuum. What the goal here, though, is we have to have both parents in some type of capacity, either by co-parenting or parallel parenting, working together for the best interest of the child. Now, what that often means is a parenting plan must be put in place. And so a parenting plan is a legal document, or oftentimes a legal document or agreed upon document that stipulates how are we going to parent our child? How do we do like a parenting schedule? Think about holidays. Who's getting little Johnny on Christmas, or New Year's, or birthdays? How are those celebrations? Think about this. What happens with the school schedule? Mm-hmm. Who is allowed to pick up little Johnny after school? How are we going to do the activities together? We ourselves can't communicate at all, right? We're in a high conflict relationship, but we need some type of an agreed upon document that talks about this decision making. What happens to the medical needs of the child, to the academic needs of the child, to the social needs of the child? How is all that spelled out? So then, to come back to your question, does Renew just kind of work on the parent-child relationship, or is it the parent-parent relationship? And the answer is it has to be everything, because unless the parents can really work together in some type of way, they're never going to be together again, but they've got to figure out some type of way together. Then little Johnny is just kind of left with a whole bunch of question marks that oftentimes ends up in disputes. So a parenting plan is often one tool used to bring parents together with some type of concrete game plan here.
Techenia, would you like to add anything, or is he doing a good job?
I think he's doing a good job. What I usually explain to the clients, especially parallel parenting, I mean, to be a co-parent, if you have a co-parent relationship, I tip my hat off to you, because I feel like, yes, the relationship has ended, but the fact that you can both be in the same room and still respect each other, and your children are able to see that is so healthy. And if you can achieve that, that's amazing. But with the parallel parenting, you kind of view it as almost like a business a business contract, where there's boundaries. There's a lot more boundaries involved in it. And there has to be a lot of effective communication, and really understand that any communication you do with the other parent strictly only has to be about the child. You're not bringing up past stuff that have happened in your relationship. Everything is just about your children, and that's it.
Okay, good stuff. Well, we found out who the LinkedIn user is, Christopher Lawrence.
Oh, that's great. So we work together. Hey, Christopher, I think you know my number. You need to reach out to me, but I appreciate it.
No problem. And
really
I think
great.
He also has a comment here. What we are talking about are the areas that require tissue for a lot of issues. With your organization, are there any built synergies that can or are supporting the work that you are doing?
So are there other agencies that are kind of supporting the work we're doing?
I guess so.
Not right now, I would say.
Are you looking for you're looking for collaborations?
Yeah,
Let's put
like
it that way.
we definitely are. I know that I want to start back up doing workshops and support groups for the new year. Really looking into that. We did do a workshop on how to manage stress with your children, but we definitely want to collaborate with a lot of people who are willing to come and work with us. And the word of the mouth is the best education you can get from a professional. So yeah, definitely reach out to us. We would love to work with you.
Excellent. The clientele that you're working or helping, I like to say working, helping. I don't like to use the word helping. What is the demographic?
It's a variety, I would say. I for the Black community, I won't say that there is a lot, but socioeconomic wise, it varies. We have kind of like across the globe, I'd say, like we have Chinese, we do have some Black families, we have white, we have European, we have South Asian. So we don't favor one type. There isn't just one set. We have some families who may be on welfare and have a payment plan with us. And we have some families who may be more affluent. It doesn't matter. Whatever walk of life that you are, everyone goes through something. And we're just here to kind of support them with that.
Okay. You bring up something again that was going on in my alleged mind that you brought up. People need to realize this is not a free service.
No, it's not. It is not. Just kind of the breakdown. So the hourly rate for in-person is $50 an hour. And Derek, correct me if I'm wrong. So we provide written notes from our supervisors, but it depends on the duration of the visit. So from 1 to 4 hours, it's $25 an hour plus HST, 1 to 4.5, and then 5 or more, then it's 35. There's so much. 30.
If you do go on the
If
website,
you go on
like
our
you were just
website, you can definitely see the breakdown of the cost.
Yeah, service fees. Yeah.
Excellent. Good stuff.
But again, we work on a sliding scale as well. We really want to help you as well. So we understand, like Sheena said, maybe you're on OW or maybe you just need some additional support. I mean, you're right. It isn't free. It's we have our operational costs to cover as well. But we do work with families. We want you to succeed.
Yeah.
Excellent. And as you mentioned, I'm just going to bring it up because people are saying, well, what are their fees? What are their fees? So
yep. So if you go to the website,
we're gonna bring it up right now. There you go.
Yeah, service fees. There it is.
So there you go. So those are the service fees.
Yes, and the visitation activity plan is actually what I work on with I like to call them the secondary caregiver. So that's your visiting parent. And that's just kind of to help and support them with making that first few visits successful. Especially if you're kind of going and you haven't seen your children for a while, there's definitely going to be emotions there. You're going to be nervous. You may feel like, oh, I don't know, I haven't seen them for a year. What does a five-year-old do? So I kind of help them and walk through them, given different activities to kind of take that stress away and help them kind of plan a bit of their visit to make sure that it goes smoothly as possible. And I do work with the primary caregiver as well too, kind of provide resources about their own mental health or to help their child as well emotionally, because they are going to come back with a lot of emotions. So I do get to speak with both sides to see how I can support their child during this time.
And if I could, Dr. Rab, if you don't mind pulling up the website one more time, because there's a lot of really great free resources that we do have here. And one really ties into what Sheena has just said. So
where do you want me to go on the site?
If you go to, I think it might be called resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I can't see it to your.
There's a drop down. There's blog parenting guide.
Yeah, the parenting guide. You had it shared before, so I was able to see the screen, but I can't see it now. But
I'm gonna go there right now. No problem. I thought that's where you may be going, so just wanted to make sure. Follow your lead. Parenting guide. is
Yeah.
not what we're looking for. I know it's the greatest look, but
Yes, that's okay. If you scroll down now, so this is under, parenting guidance. So you can see actually, if you stop and just look at kind of the guidelines there, scroll up for a moment, just to the table of contents there. So you can see, so if you're a parent right now and you just want some specific kind of guidelines or supports around how to, support your child through this, especially if you're separated and in a high conflict relationship, it says infants to toddlers, preschoolers, elementary and adolescents, etc. So here would be just one kind of free resource that you can get some information based on your child's age about how do I support my child? I'm in a high conflict relationship. We're separated. Things aren't going the greatest. This would be a resource. Second one, we have a wonderful blog site as well here. Where there's lots of topics, especially as we move into now we're into the fall. We'll be moving into the winter and the Christmas as well. We talk a lot about, on the blog, how do we support our children, doing, during these visits. So here are some really great blogs that you can read, some really great information.
excellent. So I'm just gonna unclick that, and if people want to get to that resource of the parental guide, there's the link for the parenting guide, so you can certainly copy that and read and learn at your leisure.
Yeah, absolutely. And one is really important, especially as we head back to school, in terms of strategies needed, when you're in a high conflict relationship, to really think about what the plan is for navigating the whole school experience. We take it for granted sometimes where, we just go and we drop our kids off and we go and pick it up. In a high conflict relationship, it's much more challenging than that. It's who's picking up the kid, and does the school even know who's allowed to pick up the kid? Because oftentimes what we might see is, one parent has gone to the school and says, hey, I'm picking up the child. You make sure that the other parent is not picking up the child and is not allowed to pick up that child. And so the teachers aren't social workers, they're not lawyers. They are assumed that you're telling the truth in general. And so what then happens is the other parent might come to pick up the child. And then the teacher says, well, I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, but I don't think you're allowed to pick up the child. And now we have a conflict. Because now the parent is saying, how dare you tell me I'm not allowed to pick up the child, when the teacher is just rehearsing what they've just heard. And so really it's important, as we think about even going back to school and different strategies as we're talking about, has to be a robust conversation about what's happening for returning to school.
Yeah, dealt with a number of those situations where the father comes to the school and they told me I cannot pick up my child.
Yeah.
Happened many times. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's really important that you are transparent with all the teachers, whoever is teaching your child, all the secretary, the principal. So everyone is aware of your child's situation and what the family situation is, to avoid those type of conflicts. Because you don't want to get a phone call at work and, now you got to rush over. Your child is like confused and they see their parent. They're like, I want to go with them. I want to go with them. And, it's not a great situation to put your child in. So just please, ensure that you are being completely transparent and don't feel embarrassed, because there's a lot of families who are going through it and they will understand.
It brings up a number of things during my journey. And one of the things I've done, well, first of all, a few weeks ago, I had a father circle and just asking them, how are they handling the adjustment back to school, let alone what their child, but how are they handling back to school?
And what did they say?
Some of them were up in the air. They were talking about just some of them were having challenging relations with their partner. So that's a whole dynamic in itself. Some of them have some learning development challenges. That's another thing. But I just focused on holding that circle. It was virtual with a group of men in California. And they were like, some of them were a little iffy about it, So it's very, very interesting. And another thing I definitely say to individuals that are in this situation, have a good relationship with the school.
Yes. Yeah.
That's it.
And don't be afraid to set up a meeting to speak to your child's teacher.
Yep.
You need to build that rapport with the teacher as much as the other parent does. I can say working in a school environment, the teachers appreciate the parents who are right there, every parent conference, anything that comes back in agenda, they're calling, they're emailing. They appreciate when a parent shows up for their child, regardless if you are put as the main contact or not. They want to see those parents active in that child's life, and they'll take you serious.
Well, look at the child's development years. What area do they spend more of their life in than any others? In the education, whether it's virtual classroom or in-person classroom. It's really, really important in regards to that. So I just want to get at those situations where I know dads come to school, I can't take, and they freak out.
Yeah.
Many of them, it's not a pretty situation, and it adds stress all around the place to everybody.
And you have to advocate. You have to, like Techenia's saying, you have to be present. They have to know you. You have to advocate on your own behalf, and you have to ensure that the school has your phone numbers. Because when you fill out those registration forms at the beginning of the school year, it says, what's the email address? What's the phone number, emergency phone number? And only one parent is filling out that document. And in a high conflict relationship, you know who might just get omitted?
Yeah.
The other parent,
They're
getting omitted. And so then when there's that, when the report cards get sent home, the other parent isn't getting a copy. They're not on the form. They don't even know you exist. If there's an emergency or situation that's happened with your child at school, they're not informed. If there's upcoming events, like if the child could win an award, be up for an award at the end of the month, or an extracurricular activity, the other parent is locked out of it. So you have to advocate. And if there's a discrepancy, it might mean going through the courts. Again, we talked about that parenting plan. Some document that you have from the courts that has to show, hey, I do have access. Because some parents, the situations have become so rough where they're, we call alienating, where they are really intentionally trying to keep you out of this child's life.
Been there, not personally, but in many a situation like that. The environment I worked in, that was at least 50% of the cases. It was just, and you could see the unfortunate impact on the child or children.
Absolutely. And it really is unfortunate because we know from the social science literature that children do better academically, emotionally, psychologically when they have a relationship with both parents. This is not just about, if we talk about having a child-centered approach, it's not just about I'm so angry at my partner and the best way to get rid of them or get revenge at them is to lock my child out. You have to think about that your child actually develops better when they have a relationship with the other parent. And obviously that's within reason. If we're talking about an abusive situation, then it's obviously not what we're talking about. But just because your relationship with the other parent has ended and it was contentious, it doesn't mean that that parent can't have a healthy relationship with their child. And again, the literature is quite clear about the many benefits of having that. But coming back to the school, to finish that kind of topic, it's really important that you advocate. It's important that you ensure that you have your email address on that school registry, that your phone number is part of the registration forms. You have to go and show that. And if that means bringing a legal document to the school and showing because there's a discrepancy between what you're saying and what the other parent is saying, then that's what you need to do. And it may cost you, but the cost of not doing it is even greater.
Absolutely. LinkedIn user who I think is Christopher is asking, curious, does your service provide mediation between parents?
So currently it doesn't. It doesn't. If you're talking about formal mediation, we don't. We're currently looking at adding that perhaps in the new year, and we're already in conversations with the mediator to see how that could really work out. But right now it doesn't. During our therapy sessions with parents, there isn't mediation, but again, there is this discussion around what does co-parenting or what does parallel parenting, what can this look like?
You said a dangerous word to many people of color just there. You know what word you said?
No.
Mediation?
Nope. The T word. Therapy.
Oh, therapy.
Yes. No, you're right. Yes, we have we have an allergy to it. Yeah. We have an allergy to that. That's very true.
there, I mean, the sessions that I do with the clients that take my course, we have a lot. There's a section where I do talk about mental wellness, and it's not just Black people. It's, I feel like, even though now society's moved towards speaking about mental wellness and stuff, there is still the stigma around you have to go to therapy because there's something wrong, and that's not true. Um, Going to therapy can be a beautiful thing because there might be strategies that you may need to continue to be the best person that you can be. You just don't go because something is not working. If your family has to be reshuffled, therapy can help tremendously. And it can be very beneficial for not only you, but also your child and the other parent as well. And it can help you just kind of move forward and kind of leave the past in the past and celebrate, what your future will look like, and your present will change tremendously through therapy. So don't feel, it's something you shouldn't do. I think everyone should definitely explore it. You won't know until you try it. It's almost like the fear of the unknown.
But you are right, Dr. Vibe, if I may. So you're right to such a degree that when I first introduced the therapy, I didn't call them therapists. I actually called them parenting coaches, because I tried to think of another way to engage our community, because I know that we're not doing therapy. We're going to resolve our problem on our own. I've since kind of moved away, but your point is really, we definitely get it.
So Fitnance IQ Cam says, don't say therapy to most Black
It's
folks,
true.
LOL. And she goes, especially the older generation.
It's true. It's true. It's very true.
Facts.
Yeah, very true.
Facts.
Yeah. But we need to, because you talked about, like, so another thing that we have is kids that are on the spectrum, right? They have like ASD. There's some type of like a developmental challenge there, and a social worker or somebody can, one, they need to assess your child, and secondly, you need to have a plan that's rolled out with that one parent. And then secondly, you need typically somebody to then communicate that plan with the other parent, right? Because the one parent who has decision-making or custody or whatever you want to call that with the child, they're the one that's working with the behavioral therapist, the ABA facilitator, whoever's involved in that situation, but the other parent is locked out of it. You need someone that can translate this document. And so a therapist, a social worker, you got to get professionals involved.
Yeah. I always ask some of our clients, why put in so much work in getting all these professionals behind your child? You're signing them up for therapy. They're seeing a social worker. They're seeing this person, that person. But how come you're not doing the same for you? Because you're still growing as a parent. You need the support. You can't forget about yourself.
Good point. Be the best example.
Exactly.
Be the best example for your young children. Christopher asks, what are some of the resources that you feel your organization needs right now that with time you will eventually, I think there's two different questions. I guess, what are the resources you're looking for right now? Or just leave it at that. What are you needing right now? So what are the needs of the organization right now?
Well, I alluded to the fact earlier that there's such a wait list for social workers, for therapists, for those kind of professional services. And so right now we're hiring more therapists so that we can reduce the wait list that we are beginning to develop. So
what sort of qualifications do the candidates need to have?
Yep. So for a therapist, it's a non-negotiable. You have to have a master's degree in social work or psychology, because it's important that and you have to be registered with your college, because as much as possible, if a parent has work benefits, you can pay for this through your work benefits plan. So that's one. And then secondly, you have to have at least 3 to 5 years of experience of working with parents in high conflict relationships with children who are resisting or rejecting contact with the parent. So master's degree, registered with your college, 3 to 5 years at the very minimal of working with a family systems model.
And for people who are watching during the conversation, the letters CAS were mentioned, and some people may not know what CAS is. So would you care to educate those? Because I have a global audience, they may not know. What's a CAS mean?
That's the Children's Aid Society. So it is an organization with social workers where if you are working with children, we have what we call a duty to report. So if a child is experiencing emotional, physical, mental, psychological, any type of abuse, they are called upon, and then they send a social worker out to kind of assess the situation. And that family would work with the social worker to see what is the best course of action with maintaining the health and safety of the children.
Yeah, and you're right. Especially, I don't think they use CAS in the U.S.
No,
But it's
I think it's different.
Protection Agency.
Yeah,
I can't remember what they're called. But yeah,
Okay.
Child Protection Agency.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called down south. Excellent, excellent. What's next? What's next for the organization? Looks like things are growing. Or how are you managing growth? Maybe that's a better question for what's next. How are you managing growth?
Hour by hour, day by day. Yeah, we're just taking it day by day. What's next is our support group. I definitely want to get that up and running and get some workshops out to kind of reach out and support our community and other communities as well too.
Derek, question for you. Do you have enough representation on your staff of Black males? Did I ask a bad question there?
Well,
it's not a bad question.
It's not. So, I was okay when you said Black, because we do have Black females. Black males in general, are kind of underrepresented kind of in this space, in the ECE space, in the social work space, in the teaching space. So Black males, we do have some, for sure. We have a couple. I can think of them in my mind. But the fact that I can say out of the many that we do have, that I can say, I can see a couple in my mind, shows that there's an underrepresentation. And so, to be a supervised parenting time facilitator, you don't need a master's degree. No. We do look for somebody that has a background in the social services. Again, think of ECE, think of child and youth worker, could be teacher, could be even an undergrad in social work. So we certainly welcome those. And we do need strong Black male representation figures in this role. So if you're interested, certainly send us your resume.
Excellent. Fantastic. Now I'll say what's next.
It's exciting. I think what's next is, Techenia has such an important role as a service support coordinator because her focus is service excellence. We have to continue to develop a service excellence model, because sometimes what happens is when you grow, that quality begins to wane, and we cannot have that at all. We have to provide, as we develop and as we grow, the same level of care for every family as we did when we were smaller. So Techenia has a lot of responsibility here to manage all of our clients across the different regions. And if that means bringing on additional supports in that capacity, then that's what it means. But we cannot wane on quality. It matters most. So one is being mindful of that. Secondly, again, we're expanding our clinicians. That's really important. And then thirdly, we're looking at really launching an intimate partner violence or domestic violence program for the new year. This has been something that we started working on, but what I talked about before, reunification or reintegration therapy, has really taken up a lot of time because there's such a need for that particular resource right now. But intimate partner violence, IPV, is really on our radar right now.
You mentioned I'll get both of you to answer this. The term service excellence was just mentioned. In the hard work that both of you do, what does that mean, service excellence?
Oh, how do you sum that up? It's just this, it's feeling like someone cares about your situation. Everyone's situation is individual, and just making sure that, you're still feeling heard, you still are feeling protected and safe with us. And that is very important to us, because we do understand we are dealing with clients who are probably at the most stressful part of their life, and their children, they're coming into our care. So those are their babies. So we want to make sure that we are, documenting stuff appropriately, make sure that we're answering their questions or any concerns appropriately, giving them any resources that they need. Even with the lawyers, we want to make sure, we're meeting their expectations as well too. So we welcome that feedback, and I take that and I bring it back to the team and say, hey, what can we do differently to make this even better? We just want to try and support everyone who's using our service to the best of our abilities and making sure they're leaving happy.
Yeah. Okay. And which is hard when you're talking about high conflict relationships, or even somebody with a high conflict personality type. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Another thing that I would say about service excellence is it's not just always about the clients, it's also about our staff. Mm-hmm. We're very mindful that they sometimes have very stressful visits. It's important that we're there to support them. It's important that they feel that we're there to support them as opposed to just a lip service. So it's also making sure that service excellence extends to our staff and not just to our clients. It has to be both.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So question early on in our conversation, and correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, okay. So let me say, so your staff can go to the client?
That's what they do, yes.
Yep.
Okay. So there isn't a place that they can come to you. You go to the client, correct?
We go to the client, yeah.
We do have an office space if that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
But primarily we go to you. We're trying to create natural spaces. When you have a 4-hour visit in a small kind of parenting time space,
yep,
it's a very long visit in a very confined space. Is to be outside in the playground. Exactly. Being outside in the playground and to travel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make that point clear. So people may ask, do they have a central spot, et cetera, et cetera? No, you go to them. I think your clients.
Yeah.
Next question. 5 years from now, where would you like to see Renew Supervision be?
We'd like to obviously expand in a few other provinces, I would say. Yeah. I mean, now that we're in Saskatchewan, we're really excited about that.
How did that, by the way, how did that happen?
It's so interesting. I don't know what to tell you, Dr. Vibe.
Just tell me the truth. Just tell me how it happened, brother.
Okay, I'll tell you this. About 3 months, about 3-4 months ago, we got a call from a lawyer in it's in northern British Columbia, way up north, maybe 5 hours north of Vancouver.
Right.
That we're looking for our services, even though we're listed as a Toronto agency. Mm-hmm. We recently got yet another referral from from Vancouver.
Yeah.
And so the answer to your question is people in other provinces are contacting us, including not many, but several, a sufficient number in Saskatchewan that led us to realize that there was a service need or service gap in Saskatchewan, which then led us to open up another location over there.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Good challenges.
Yeah.
Good challenges. Well, as we start to wind down the conversation, are there any messages you'd like to share with our audience before we hopefully let you go and have a bit of a break?
I would say one thing if you're listening and you are experiencing this in your life and are struggling with the fact, is this going to work for my child? And I think it's important to understand that the child experiences each parent differently, and the relationship that you had with that partner may not be the same experience for your child. And I think it's really important to allow your child to explore that and let them come to that answer if they want to continue that relationship with that individual, instead of always trying to make that decision for them. And you may feel like this is the best thing for them, but I can say, speaking from personal experience, my parent did an amazing job allowing me to explore my own relationship. And I thought that was the best thing they could ever give me. And I'm thrilled that they didn't decide to make that decision for me and say, you know what, you're better off just, with me. So, yeah.
Derek?
I think that as parents, we try to do the best we can with the resources, with the information that we have. I think you need to feel encouraged. I think you need to be gentle on yourself. Sometimes we can really beat ourselves up when we, especially if our child is acting up and we think, I've done something wrong, I should have done something. And we rehearse so much of the past and things that we could have done. And I think that you need to be really gentle on yourself, understanding you've done the best you can. If there's additional supports that you need, then, as taboo is in our community, you just need to reach out, because it's about, what is in the best interest of our child and how can we give them a bright future. It's interesting. I take my kids to, gymnastics and dance lessons and different lessons. And I hear parents, they've traveled about like 30 minutes just to get to a particular gymnastics center or dance center because they really think that this is the best one, better than the 3 or 4 that they would have passed on the way here. They've gone out of the way. It might even be a little more expensive. It's that same type of diligence that we also need to do for the child. So really get those resources to your child, and then to be gentle and easy on yourself. You really are trying your best.
Well, Tashina and Derek, thank you for taking time out of your positive, productive schedule. Congratulations on everyone on your team, the hard work that you have done, are doing, and will be doing. Looking forward to keeping in touch. If there's anything we can do to help serve you, please do not be afraid to reach out. Everyone, the contact information's on the screen. It's been up there a few times. Please reach out, whether it's yourself or someone that you know, because you're raising the future. If you have a child, you're raising the future. So do you want a good impact or a bad impact on the future? The decision is up to you. Thank you very much, both of you. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
No problem, everyone. Great conversation here. I'm glad we had a chance to chat about that. Don't get a chance to talk about it too much. And I have experience working in this field. So, hey, make sure it's helpful for everybody. So just want to catch up on a few things. If you want to get in contact with me, these are all the different places: website, email, YouTube and Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, too, if you want to promote your business or your service on the show, please contact me. There's my email address. And as always, I'd like to say you're watching Black Canada Talking, 5 p.m. Eastern Time every Sunday afternoon. You can catch me during the week, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday and Fridays, co-hosting with Ryan O'Neill Knight on the Morning Vibe, and on most of the time, Saturday nights at 9 p.m. I host State of Things with Aisha K. Staggers, Jill Jones, and Laura Lalaki, where they talk about everything social, political going on in the United States of America. So as always, I close out with this: live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace, and God bless. Peace well, keep the faith, and walk good. We'll see you soon.